Professor Ali Shakouri is our director of Birck Nanotechnology Center. He's also a professor in electrical and computer engineering. Without further ado, let's welcome Professor Ali Shakouri. Welcome, Professor.
Thanks a lot, Joy.
So, Professor Shakouri, it's so honored to have you in our interview today. And as a director of Birck Nanotechnology Center, do you have something to welcome us about the new year?
Thanks again for taking the time. I know organizing this takes a lot of effort, but I think building a community is so important, and everybody's busy doing their own research, and sometimes we get too busy. I think first I welcome any new person in the community from the student side. First of all, I just want to remind people, because of kind of this COVID situation, be extra vigilant. Students are young, and sometimes you don't think is as dangerous. But on the other hand, within Birck, we have also staff and other people who are in a different age group who could be more affected. So please be sensitive and kind of obey all the COVID precautions. And I think the only other advice is that I'm really glad that NSAC is active, have several programs, and encourage as many of you to participate as you can.
Thank you, Professor. So for you, it has been a long way from undergraduate, PhD, and then become a faculty, and finally administrator, for our Birck Nanotechnology Center. So at the beginning of this whole story, you got your undergraduate in 1990, and that's an education in Europe. How was that sound like?
It doesn't feel that many years ago, but sometimes you start counting. It's quite some time, 30 years ago. It's interesting. I had the opportunity to be in different education system. I grew up and I went to kind of high school in Iran, but moved to France when I was in last year of high school. So I finished my high school in Paris, and I did 4 years of undergraduate studies there. And then I came to US. It was a very good experience. The feeling I have is that the work there is much more theoretical. I think that's one of the reasons they have good mathematicians there. But I think that's one of the things you realize when you're in different countries, that there are some local strength. There I actually, for my undergraduate work, during the 4 years, I was at 3 different institutions. So it was also good. I was first at the University of Paris. It's a big place. I was actually studying first mathematics and physics. And my first degree was in theoretical physics, because I thought, I want to see how, what the world is made of, and, what is make everything working. But then realize soon that when you do research, you become focused very quickly, and so it's not as a big view. And then I also realized there are limitations in terms of jobs, so I moved more to engineering in my last year. And when in 1990, 89, 90, I came. So actually what happened is that the last year of school, I was supposed to do 5-year school there. I did it at Caltech as exchange student. So I was a master's student there and last year of school in France. So I kind of could see both sides, and then moved to US, because I think for research, definitely is a lot of more resources here than it's in US. And of course, also I had a good environment for the graduate school.
I see. So did you set up your mind of doing research from a very early time when you were when you started your undergraduate?
No, well, I guess it's interesting. So I didn't really think too much at each step if I should do anything else. You always want to do. I think I wanted to learn more. So I wanted to do a PhD from early age, but I was not sure that I want to go out to academia or to go to industry. So actually in my last year in my PhD, last 1.5 years, I hesitated hesitated a lot. I interviewed at universities and I interviewed in industry. And what is interesting is I also ask a lot of advice. I think one of the comments I should take to students is that, you know, in a university environment, there's a lot of resources around you. So try to get to know people, use their advice. So I asked, I think, 6, 7 professors that I really liked, and they were very good people that I interacted with at Caltech about what I want to do is fundamental research, but I also, you know, like teaching. What is interesting is half of the professors that I talked to said if they had to start again, they would exactly do what they have done, and a faculty job is fabulous. And the other half, they were all good professors, all tenured, you know, in a place like Caltech. They said, well, you know, there are pros and cons. They spend so much time chasing money that sometimes takes the fun out of it. And they said, you know, if you go to a good research lab, at the time, Bell Labs was still good. There were some good industrial lab. They said that could be good. They were starting to have some startup. There was interest there. So there was excitement. So what is interesting is that after I finished my PhD, I could not make my mind. And I had offers to go to industry, and I had offers to start a tenure track. And I said, you know, I need more time. So I actually did a postdoc to kind of understand better what is required. So I went to UC Santa Barbara for a postdoc. And during that time, I also had experience being more involved in grants and realized you know, there is an element that you need to be good in salesmanship. And I guess I learned that from my advisors. And I thought then it could work out. That's why I continued in academia.
So you tried something relevant to a faculty job during your like a postdoctor period, and then you make up your mind. Yeah. Then do you meet any like big challenges or difficulty when you're doing your PhD?
Well, I guess depends what you define as challenge, and also in retrospect, things are different than they were at the time.
Yeah.
But I think in general, for any PhD, when usually you take a class, the class level is designed for you. You take physics 2, that means you have taken physics 1. They teach you something that is continuation. You need to continue to spend time, but this is at your level. But in research, there is no boundaries. I was going to group meeting. I had a big group, 20, 25 students, and I wouldn't understand 90% of the words they were talking about. And it was challenging. And my own research, I didn't know where to start. So I think at the beginning could be quite frustrating because it's not planned. It's not that I do homework 1, then I do homework 2. And I think that's the real thing you learn as a PhD student, how to navigate. You know, sometimes people say, why should I do PhD with respect to, you know, a master's degree? I said, well, PhD is really how to navigate in a territory you have never been. The problem you're working on may not have a solution. How do you know? And you may waste 10 years working on something that doesn't, but if you're smart, on the other hand, if you only do things that you know that will work, you are not innovative. So how to handle that is you learn it. And I think the best advice was from one of my office mate in graduate school in the first 1 or 2 years. He told me from the time you know what you are doing and the time you graduate is 1 year. All before that, you're navigating. So don't feel bad if you don't understand what you're doing.
I kind of feel that is true, but when we are feeling that, we always feel we wasted the time before that final year. So
it's not waste.
Yeah, but as you you change from a student to a faculty, actually now as a faculty, you need to lead students to navigate about their problems. And then how do you make sure that whether the project can be solved or not? You have more responsibilities for people.
Well, it's interesting, and different faculty have different methods, and you know, all of us have also different strengths. My advisor was very hands-off, and sometimes there are some advisors who very on a weekly basis want to make sure students don't do mistakes and kind of on the right trajectory. And of course, depends on the student. In general, I think degree of independence is needed. If everybody tell you what to do next step, then you don't know how to navigate, how to solve problems. But at the same time, you need to provide at the right time some feedback, and that's important. So people kind of direct it. I think you learn by doing, but the first thing you learn in education is there is no magic bullet, and each person is different. What is important is caring. Okay, what is the problem that is important on one side, and what is kind of the person's strength, and how we can find something that works on both sides. Sometimes it's trial and error. You try something, this didn't work. Next 6 months, you work something else. So it depends. In my case, I used to have a big group, now not anymore. Students helping each other plays a big role, and I think that's one of the great assets of Birck, is that you have people with so many different expertise. You are typically getting a degree in a department. Often you get classmates within the same major, which is good, but you don't have the perspective. At Birck, you have 200 resident students, and they're coming from 15 different academic units, different background you can learn. I remember one of the once I started at Birck, I was talking to NSAC people at the time, and they were telling me, oh, last week I participated in my office mate's PhD exam. And we have been office mate for 4 years. And last week I realized, oh, such an interesting project he was working. I said, wow, it's a little too late if you figure out last week. But, I think part of it is informal. You have a problem, you go to talk to somebody, but without having problem, like open sessions like you have like this, the more people take advantage, the better it is.
Yeah, but sometimes people just get freaked out about asking and meeting, like knowing the new people. So I think talking to people and managing people is kind of your job when you are doing the service and administration in school, along with your faculty a position. So what is that a part of a career plan at the beginning?
So I guess moving from beyond faculty to be administrator, I don't think I ever planned on that. I think I really liked the research and I liked the teaching, so faculty position was very good. And when I was at University of California in Santa Cruz, it was a small university, but we had a good group, good collaborators, and we were 45 minutes from Silicon Valley and 2 minutes from the beach. So you cannot get anything better from just pure research. The only reason I came here, because I knew Tim Sands, the former Birck director, and we had collaborated for a long time, since I think probably 99, 2000. So I've been collaborating with him for 10, 12 years. So I knew about the environment at Birck and I really liked it. So I think that was part of the reason. And I think part managing a facility has, of course, its own challenges. You have always personality issues. You have equipment that breaks down. I guess we have some staff who can tell you about that. But I think the fun part of it is, being able to work with such a great group of colleagues and staff that we have. I think we have a really unique setting here. There are a few cases if you are able to get some of the alumni to come to your coffee hours. They can tell you after here when they have gone to other universities. I can tell you, Caltech is, of course, highly ranked and a good place, but we didn't have something similar to this at the time. I don't know what is right now, but I don't think this level of collaboration, sharing labs, that was some things that team told me is when I wanted to come here and was discussing about the lab space. the first rule they tell you as a faculty position to negotiate is what is your space, because whatever space you get before you sign your hiring, then it's very hard to change. But team told me, don't worry, this is all shared. This is a place you want things to happen. And I see that. I see that the model we have is something that it's very good. And especially a space when it's shared by students, you need to do a measurement in surface science, and you go to a surface science lab and interact with students with chemistry and physics. Or you need to do a measurement in optics, you go in optics lab. This is the kind of really unique things we have, and I'm hoping more and more people take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's very wise advice, but sometimes people are afraid of meeting new people, and then like they kind of constrain themselves in a small room. Oh, so like you are a researcher, you are a faculty, and you are also a director. Actually, like a part of your job is meeting people, and you are actually accepting new students and like sending them away for their future career. And you are also meeting people from industry, business. So it's kind of like a center of all kinds of people around your life. So what do you think will be like some abilities that students, especially during PhD, like a PhD period, they should develop?
I think the way I say it is that all of us have certain strengths, but certain strengths are latent, meaning that if we don't practice it, you never show up. So my suggestion is, you do research. First of all, in research, try to get exposed to different areas. If you can do a little theory, to do a little experiment, just to see where are the areas that you like. You are working with mainly a professor. I have seen in some cases that students become glued to collaborate between different groups. So again, you talk to somebody and say, oh, if I could collaborate with that group, this project, I could do something that I couldn't do otherwise. And this links, you practice it if it works. But beyond that, being successful is not just publishing more papers. Network is important. And I think maybe this is an area students forget or maybe they don't put as much importance. My comment always is that 20 years from now, what do you think from what you do today will affect you? Writing one more paper or kind of getting to know some other areas. So I think that's one. And also being part of a community, you never know. If you want to become manager at any either industry or at a university setting like I am, you need to handle and work with people. So working on groups, how to coordinate activities such as this is a good practice to see if you like it and to see how you can get better. The other part of it is, nothing is set in stone. We should always think that there is room to do things better, and that's something to try.
Yeah. We should make use of the spectrum of people here in Birck and try to improve and practice ourselves and get ready for the future. All right, I think we're approaching the end of our interview. We would like to collect some questions from the audience. All right, so while we're waiting for people to ask questions, I think I can ask one more question. So like Professor Shakouri, now you are no longer a PhD student. Is there something you miss the most about your student life?
Well, I think I had a very good memories of that. The way I look at it, I never think, I think every stage in life have its time and place. I don't know, you don't want to be a student for 20 years. um, I think the part that maybe I miss the most is ability to focus. Because, with a small group of students, we will work on a project, we read, we discuss, a lot of fun. Now I have to juggle many more things. I cannot focus as much. I think that's maybe the area. I think, going to classes, sometimes there is nothing that forbid, people who are professional to take classes. But again, we get too busy. But I really like that class interaction. Maybe one of my to-do things is to start taking classes again.
Well, there are many online classes, though we don't have interactions like before.
Question incoming from the chat.
So I guess the question is, how do you balance between theoretical studies and experimental approaches? How to balance? The way I look at it is that I don't think it's something you can generalize. A balance for certain activity means 50-50. For certain other activity could be 80% experiment, 20% theory, or vice versa, 80% theory, 20. What I say, what is the balance is, whenever you have a problem, so you are going to a new territory. You are trying to measure something that has never been measured, or make something that has never been made. If your approach is experimental, then you try lots of things, method 1, method 2, and kind of sit down and kind of do a little back of the envelope, how far can go, what people have done. So always keep an eye a little on that. And vice versa, you have a full PhD about writing a code to do simulation of something. Keep connected to experimentalists. What are the measurable effects? What are some of the factors? I think keeping eye on it, just not to be focused on one thing you're doing. That's my suggestion, but it's really not, a clear balance. In my own kind of group, really the students, part of the theory changes quite a bit. So it's really project by project.
All right, thank you for the question, and thank you, Professor Shakouri. We really appreciate your advice and experience.
Thanks a lot, Joy, and thanks everybody for participating.